thrown together.
Yeah, I think it's more akin to like when you hear even if it's a good song, when it's played too much, you're like, I am ready for something different.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
And to that point, when it gets like just distilled and pulled down and economized to a point where like you're tearing out all of the things that make that thing special, just to be able to sell a look. Yeah, that's always frustrating, and it cheapens what we do, right? Because that's the whole point of what we do, is the attentiveness that we take to those things. But it's also kind of like if you ever watched Chef Show on like Netflix, right, where they talk about lava cake, it was this cool thing that only the best chefs did, and then somebody like Olive Garden figured out how to do it cheap, and then everybody had it and wanted it, and everybody could get it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
now it's just it's vanilla. It's
Right.
there's so
It's a great analogy.
because we're the same way, and we don't shy away from it, because there's an inherent value, and you can do those things well. You can do that style well, but you have to pay attention, and you have to do it with care, and yeah, when you don't, it's like what am I looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. There was a period in Austin around here that, I guess somebody thought, took a look at the hill country. Like Austin's kind of like right at the beginning of what you'd call the Texas hill country. A little bit rolling hills. You see like exposed rock outcroppings and stuff like that. And I guess somebody thought it looked like the hills of Tuscany, Italy, and said, "Oh, let's do a Tuscan style house." And then that just like caught on like wildfire in like the 90s and early 2000s. And in West Austin in the hills, like everywhere you look is just like, maybe the first one starting out, and David Shiflett, my old business partner, he'd tell you, yeah, sure, we did some Tuscan houses style, but gave it that attentiveness and attention to detail to where, they actually work, and it's not bad. It's not what I would choose to live in today, but the problem is, yeah, like Carmine was saying, it just got economized and just like bastardized essentially to where it's like, well, it's Texas Tuscan now. It's really bad stone, really terrible, awkward proportions, and just essentially McMansions in stone and cheap tile roof. And so that's an unfortunate thing, and it's almost becoming like a project type now of like, what do we do with all these houses? How do we remodel them to make them like, look halfway decent and function better? So that's kind of becoming an interesting project type. But anyway, that's like sort of an aside.
Well, and so you both mentioned it, and I definitely want to get both of you. So I guess because like you guys mentioned, and Mark, just on that story you just told, how crucial is it to, not crucial, but close to the bullseye, so to speak, is it to like nail the, I guess, scenery of where you're trying to build, and then that playing into how a design would look? Like how crucial is it to like understanding and thinking, understanding the layout around and like the scenery and kind of building from there? Because ultimately I feel like from everything I've heard is scenery plays a really, really big piece into, before you guys even start the process or in the beginning of the process. Is that right? Or is that kind of off? Mark, you can go first.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's kind of a, I don't know, kind of more of a like a mindset of a lot of the architects that I admire, of just like, the building kind of is harmonious with its surroundings, and that could be a beautiful like total rural ranch setting, not surrounded by any other buildings, or it could be, a suburban lot or an urban lot with buildings right next to it, and being respectful of kind of the character of the place and the feeling of the place or the neighborhood. And yeah, so I think there's a lot of things that factor into it, like just kind of local available materials, like you'd see that's why you see like adobe houses in New Mexico and in the desert, and you see a lot of stone houses around here where there's a lot of stone, and so that that's that's part just like practicality of just using what's available around there, but it's also, there's a bit of the surrounding nature, playing a part in the house and having it, I don't necessarily think a house has to like disappear into its surroundings, but there's just something about like just being harmonious in a way and the right scale, and to where you couldn't, hopefully it's an improvement on the landscape, literally and just like kind of aesthetically, if that makes any sense. And honestly, Carmine is way better at talking about this kind of stuff than I am.
I don't know. I thought that was pretty good. No, I mean, we're really fortunate where I work to be able to work on, and in Maryland, it's a lot of coastal work. And in Virginia, it's a lot of, big property work, but there's always good view. And that's one of the first things that clients come and say that they're really looking to kind of maintain or harness or focus on when they come and start projects with us. And so, when we've been asked before if we work in any particular style or what that is or sort of stuff, we really, we say our style is view, because we can work in pretty much any style that we're comfortable with, lots of different things, but siting the home correctly, focusing on the view that's important, and maintaining the organization of the home and window placement and that sort of thing is critical to what we do. And if it doesn't feel like it's of its place, both from a material perspective, but also from a view from the inside out perspective, because let's be honest, that's where we spend 90% of our time, then it's not as successful as it could have been. Like maintaining that connection when I'm inside my home to the outside is something that we're always striving to maintain or to achieve when we're working with clients.
Mm-hmm. And
totally. Yeah, you can't see me, but I'm nodding my head. I think that's spot on. Just it starts with that very first site, plan and orientation, and it'll vary depending on the region. Solar orientation is a huge deal here, with how hot it gets, and orienting that back porch to catch the prevailing breeze from the southeast, and views play a huge factor here in Austin, where sometimes you're up on a hill and you got a great view. So yeah, that's really the primary driver. And then we can kind of work in any sort of style that the client likes to take it, but at the end of the day, we want to be something we want to be proud of, and that the homeowner loves as well.
And so that I kind of want to, because I know I have like a billion questions, but I know we're coming up on time, so I want to definitely get to this one. So let's get to a funny kind, I guess, funny / more relaxed kind of topic. Have you both ever had? Feel free to share as best as you can. Definitely, obviously as best as you can disclose. A situation where a client it was ridiculous, and it definitely just makes you think, okay, one, they're not seeing the value, or maybe they're just like Mark, you might have mentioned they're all budget oriented. But do you have any? I feel like especially when you're with the work both of you do, you could have some interesting clients for sure, and you definitely never know what you're gonna get. And I feel as though that can stumble upon. So we're gonna switch up here. Carm, if you want to go first on this one, let me hear one.
Oh, that is my favorite part of the job, is working. I came from I thought it was important when I first got started to have an understanding of kind of.
Sorry to interject real quick, Carmine, for everyone. You work at an associate at Purple Cherry Architects, correct? Is that the full disclosed name, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
So,
continue.
But before I got here, I worked at big firms doing big builds and big design, and I thought it was important to get a handle on, or understanding of how that part of the business worked and how that thing sort of worked. But when you work with those sorts of clients, like you work with school systems, you work with city councils and that sort of stuff, big groups of people at a time, you never really get a sense for like the individual character of any particular person. You're just trying to help you're trying to help a larger group of people, which has a lot of inherent value. Like working on schools and working on college buildings it was really easy to see the value in what you were trying to give to somebody
Right.
and that's work. But working on homes and getting to work with couples and families, and it's you meet so many awesome personalities and legitimately quirky personalities and people at their most like personal when they start to get comfortable.
Yeah.
That like who they are really starts to come out, and that's always fun. But I think like as far as like a specific example, I'm not really sure I can go into one, but I've always loved to sit back in project meetings with clients who feel like they know everything about home design because they've lived in a home and I know what I'm doing. Like, and like they'll be sitting there talking about your design, one, like it's theirs, two, like know everything about your expertise, and then kind of like create this like dynamic where like they are telling you like the fundamental principles of design and what it means to be an architect and
ipso facto, I'm your boss.
and yeah, and it's like you just kind of like you get to a point where you let it like wash over. You're like, that's you're right. You're absolutely right. And you do your best to kind of gently bring them either into work them through what it is that's challenging about what they're proposing. Like I would like a 40-foot long cantilevered porch with no supports. Like, okay. And here's why that's possible. Like, okay, please tell me why. And then like working through that. And when you can make something like that possible, it's always really cool. But most often it's not. And it always happens at the beginning. And it's always at the beginning. And honestly, it's like watching the first couple episodes of a new like show series or something like that. Those are always the most interesting and most fun for me because it's like it's before it's when everything is possible. The budget is kind of whatever. And here's what I want to do. I want this house to completely cantilever off the side of the mountain. Like, okay, that's fine. Here's what that means. Are you comfortable with that? Oh no, that's not possible. That's not either within our budget or that's not at all what I thought it was going to be. Like, okay, here we go. Now let's kind of like let's
in.
So I don't know if that really answers the question.
Yeah. I get you. But you've never had anyone be like, give me a 30-foot ceiling. You're like, well, we can't do that. And you're like, well, make it happen. Here's $1 billion. And it's like,
no, that happens all the time. That happens all the time. That happens pretty much on every project, regardless of budget or scale. You often do find, and Mark can speak to this, if he's found this too, but recently with how crazy everything about the market is, it happens a lot with the clients with smaller budgets who still think that they can, that everything is possible or that, they're not totally in tune with what their dollars are going to get them to. Like, yeah, I want 15-foot tall steel doors and I want this, and that's, sure, we can. That's like $800,000 window package. You cool with that? Like, oh no, that's my budget. Okay, so here we go. Let's. So.
Yeah.
Mark,
that's definitely one of the most challenging and tricky things to kind of navigate as part of our job is just like, client expectation and education and all that of like, we're dealing with like their dream homes here. And so they, a lot of times have big dreams, but, very real budgets. And so we gotta try to balance the two and, and it's tough, especially right now. Yeah. It's hard to even pin a number down, and it seems like it changes every day. And we try to have them hire a contractor, a builder for pre-construction services. Even after our first like hand sketch, just to be like gut check. What do you think? Are we on target for budget or not, or whatever? And so they're like a huge resource to bounce off, like budget and everything. So that we don't, because the last thing we want to do is like complete an entire set of plans, this long process, send it out for bids, and it's, double the budget or whatever it was. But anyways, we get some fun requests, and sometimes they've got the ability to do it, and other times it's